All right, we are in week number 2. So you'll see that the structure is pretty much the same, but we're going to change things up a little bit. So last week for our long ride, for example, we had some 20-minute intervals where I was asking you to kind of open up your legs a little bit and put in some effort. This week, you see that you are going 5 hours, but I am saying you can go ahead and keep it more aerobic this week. So one of the things that I'll challenge you to think about when it comes to riding is, yeah, you know what? When you're riding, especially in this type of situation where you're trying to go to a PR or potentially qualify, you're going to be working hard. But I will tell you this, even when you're working hard, you want to be riding in the race at a pace or an effort that you could continue for another 2 or 3 hours. And what I try to say is if you couldn't ride your bike for another 2 hours at the effort that you're doing in the race, how do you expect to be able to run for 2 hours plus at a high level? So you want to kind of have that in mind and you want to be thinking about that. So we're going to bounce back and forth a little bit between some aerobic days and then some days where I'm asking you to get a little bit extra out of it and putting in some effort. Now, I will say this, I trained, especially for when I was really trying to qualify, I would put myself in a position where I was training at a harder level than I planned on racing on certain days. Like last week, you saw a little bit of that where we were putting in some efforts. But on race day, as we get closer, we'll talk about how we want to use that fitness. And I think there's some key mistakes that a lot of athletes are making on race day that are holding them back from hitting their potential, which we'll talk about later. But right now, you'll see that we're expanding on that base a little bit. That being said, if you end up riding 4 hours and 45 minutes or 6 hours, I'm fine with that. Just stick with the integrity of the workout. The other thing that you'll notice as well too is Tuesday and Thursday run do in fact look very similar, but they're different. One is specifically about more turnover and that type of stuff. And I'd like you to start to pay attention to the cadence that you're running at that turnover. And then the others are hills, okay? Your hills are important days because that's going to build strength. And so much about Ironman training, especially at a racing level, is about how strong are you? Can you sustain a higher level of your top end for longer periods of time? That is so much more important. If you think back to the last time you tried to qualify or the last time you had your good race, if I looked at you with the last 20 minutes of the race and asked you to try to, what was your top end mile time? You in training, you would tell me it really made no difference. You're just trying to survive. So we're trying to build that quad density and strength in order to get you through the entire race. The other thing, and this is paramount, you have to make sure you have a good nutrition plan. And a Ferrari, for example, has the same amount of energy at a full tank of gas right all the way up until it almost runs out of gas. The human body does not act like that. If you start depleting your energy stores and hydration stores, you will lose performance as those start to decline. You want to make sure that you are using really good race nutrition, and anything that you try to do, even if it's the perfect race nutrition, if you don't try it except for the race, it's not the perfect race nutrition. So you want to make sure you're dialing that in, but I cannot stress enough, I went from where I was always hovering around 10 hours. In fact, I never really could break 10 hours. I was like 10:02, 10:04, 10:07. Didn't matter what course, Florida, Hawaii, it didn't matter. When I figured out my nutrition, I went 9:16 and was pretty consistently under 9:30 from that point forth. Not just in the race, but my daily nutrition. So we have some nutrition resources if you're interested in how we've done it. I don't really care how you get there. Whatever works for you is what I'm interested in. I have my own beliefs, obviously, which we talk about in the nutrition section. But you can do whatever you want as long as it works for you. I'm just saying, make sure you dial it in now. Do not wait until you try to get closer. And hopefully in base season, you have gotten down to your ideal race weight. And now maybe you have a pound or two to kind of tweak a little bit, but you're not trying to do massive weight loss while you're putting this load on your body. So those are my tips for week 2, and I'll see everybody in week 3.